だこれ無料ゲーム
君は頑張って生き残ってね須藤要くん
At the forefront of our list of best shows this winter 2020 is Darwin's Game. 2020 Future Dairy, anyone? The story of Sudo's mundane life being dragged into a death game and a battle for survival's not looking to be everyone's top choice for anime of the season, but it sure is one entertaining ride. In addition to Kaname's Shiro Emiya powers, anime fans can find a lot of familiar elements in Darwin's Game that would ease them into finding a comfort zone while watching the show develop. The action is fun, and I think that the character dynamics are ultimately the show's strongest point. I just think it's a shame that the show's likely to only run for one core. Because of the short run, we're not likely to see an adaptation of the latter arcs that detail more of the reasons for the death game and further develop the characters. Nevertheless, with what we have, I think Darwin's Game's exciting enough to stand on its own, and the arc that took up half of the scheduled episodes has been a treat to watch with its twists and great action.
ショーモデル主にファッションショーで活躍するモデルのこと
Up next at number 9 is Smile Down the Runway. You know, with me always saying that Isekai has done the masterful job of tweaking itself and reinventing some tropes in order to give it its long shelf life that we see today, there is something that I neglected to tell you. Isekai isn't the king of taking pretty much any setting and topic and applying its trademark flair in order to make it appealing. Sports anime is, as we'll see later. Now, why am I telling you this? Smile Down the Runway is not a sports anime in any sense. Well, it follows Chiyuki, a young, aspiring girl who dreams to be a star model. However, things don't go as planned for her, as she finds herself physically unable to become a professional model. You see, you have to be a certain height in order to make it, and such is the cruelty of this world. Nonetheless, help is on the way as Chiyuki meets a classmate who has talent in designing clothes. Together, can the two make the impossible possible? Now, doesn't that sound like the formula for a good old underdog story entering the world of cutthroat competition? It's not a sports anime, but it sure seems like one from the sound of things. Even if you're not that interested in the topic of fashion design, I'm sure that Smile Down the Runway will keep your butts glued as you watch Chiyuki's journey towards success. That's just how good the shonen anime formula is, and from experience, it manages to take something seemingly so unrelated like fashion design and weave it into such a compelling story. This show completely flew under the radar for me before the season, and now I don't regret watching it one bit. For our 8th entry, we take a journey to a fantasy world with Somali and the Forest Spirit. Taking place in a world of spirits and monsters, humans have long been driven to near extinction. However, this isn't your gritty humanities resistance show that you would have come to expect from settings. Instead, it's the story of Somali, one of the few remaining humans, and the golem who serves as the forest's guardian spirit. The chance encounter triggers a parental bond between the two, and they begin their journey of exploring the world together. It's magical, it's pretty, and it's as wholesome as you can get for a modern anime. Somali and the Forest Spirit is a story of the two's journey and the growth of the bond between father and daughter. The show reminds me of some good old Ghibli films thanks to those high fantasy worlds that are just ripe for exploration and discovery. In contrast to the RPG settings or the war-torn imperial kingdoms that we often see in fantasy, Somali takes us to what reminds me of the magical world of fairy tales and childhood storybooks. Somali and the Forest Spirit is a unique experience for this day and age, and it's surely a wholesome one that you and the family can enjoy together. Special mention to the masterfully sung ending song by Rem's voice actress, which had me hooked for hours on end. And just as we finish with a wholesome show, it's time to get the popcorn ready for some controversy. Probably the most influential anime on the list in the real world is coming next on the list at 7. Interspecies Reviewers. You have to be living under a rock to not feel the waves that this show sent across the community months ago. I know Funimation and MyAnimeList would be remembering this show for a long time. Now, what is this show about, and why did it cause so much controversy? Well, to put it simply, it's about 3 buddies going around and sleeping with different species of creatures and publishing reviews about how each experience feels to them. It might be one of the boldest ideas to make it to ecchi anime in the recent years, and it really showed given how much attention the West has given it. Honestly speaking, the anime probably wouldn't be in any way helpful in terms of teaching you the meaning of life, giving you a new perspective, or anything like that. Nonetheless, if you're the type who wants to get his seasonal dose of ecchi content, here's a show you might be pleasantly surprised about. Interspecies Reviewers might not be for everyone, but it certainly offers a unique take as a member of the ecchi genre, which has somewhat been stagnating over the past few years. I mean, I personally prefer my classic fan service shows like No Game, No Life or Prison School, but you could check this one out to see what all the fuss is about. For our sixth anime on the list, it's time to dive back into the world of MMOs with the hit anime Bofuri. I wonder how you guys assign stats in MMORPGs. Do you go all the way and throw all stat points in one relevant stat, or do you try to balance every stat out, possibly turning yourself into a jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none type? If you're the former type of player, you might be able to relate to Maple's dilemma. Allocating all of her stat points to defense due to her fear of pain, Kaede finds herself in a pickle in NWO, New World Online. Lacking magic, speed, or anything else which is relevant, her character Maple ends up being unable to do anything of relevance whatsoever. However, it does turn out that jacking up her defense that much does come with some nifty benefits, such as the skill Absolute Defense and the ability to kill things with counters. Armed with a unique setup, she partners with her friend Risa, playing as the swashbuckling Sally, and they go on plenty of adventures in NWO. Thus begins a cute and light-hearted adventure across an MMO world with the best adventure duo you could ask for. It may not be the most in-depth or realistic MMO show out there, but that's exactly where Bofuri derives its charms from. It's cute, entertaining, and extremely relaxed. In a way, it kind of reminds me of the SAO Alternative, the spin-off anime starring Len, in that it's a chill show about gamers playing video games, at least before the real-life circumstances start getting dragged into GGO. At number 5 is Toilet-Bound Hanako-kun. It seems to be a big thing with schools in Japanese media, but the concept of the 7 mysteries or 7 wonders seems to be quite common. Schools are, after all, prime locations for hauntings and stories of encounters with creatures that go bump in the night. Kamome Academy is no exception, as it's the place where the legend of Hanako-san, a ghost of a girl haunting toilets, lives on. Rumors state that Hanako would grant her summoner any wish. This is enough to try and push many students to try and summon her, including Nene Yoshiro, who's desperate for someone to return her feelings. Turns out that Hanako is actually a boy, and through some twists and turns, Nene finds herself as Hanako's assistant, who ends up being entangled in the world of the supernatural. Little did she know that Hanako is not merely a toilet-bound ghost, but also a guardian maintaining the balance between the human and spirit worlds. Coming into the season, I had high expectations for Dorohedoro and was expecting it to be a smash hit, given the source material's popularity and its cult following. While that explosive popularity hasn't materialized, I think that the show's doing quite well for itself really anyway. Entering the fray of manga adaptations with the basic premise of a man out on the hunt for magicians who turned his head into a lizard, Dorohedoro's carved itself into a nice niche in the anime community. While its CGI has been a source of debate, its plot development, characters, and overall atmosphere have been praised by most people who've watched it. Also, it's worth noting that Dorohedoro is not an edge fest that you'd expect from a violent and gory setting like this. Instead, it carries itself with a unique tone that allows it to be more of a campy and dark comedy, all the while being legitimately disturbing. I personally didn't see that the series' transition into anime format would be this smooth and was partially expecting some backlash due to the violence. I guess the series has to thank Ishuzoko reviewers for absorbing much of the mandatory seasonal heat from Western journalism. Next on the list is another supernatural show, Inspector. To be honest, this kind of show caught me by surprise. At first glance, I was thinking something along the lines of Bleach, minus the DBZ power levels and magical swords. It's that or Noragami, another show that I really loved back then and that you should also check out. However, Inspector has turned out to be one fun mystery-solving show. Much of the show's runtime is spent on spirit mediator Kotoko, college student Kuro, and his ex-girlfriend Saki solving the mystery behind Steel Woman Nanase, a spectre running amok and wreaking havoc around town. Just what is this ghost all about? How did it come to be, and how does it get put in its place? Most of the show's 12 episodes revolve around the case, and it turned out to be a slow burn that keeps me anticipating each new episode as weeks go by. The amount of talking might not be everyone's cup of tea, but the characters provide more than enough entertainment to keep fans engaged. There are some action and supernatural powers involved, but unlike Noragami, Inspector is a mystery series through and through.
こんな感じのアニメになるぞ。どうよ。ガチャンガチャンガチャン。
Next on the list is Keep Your Hands Off Izoken. Every now and then, you get these anime that delve deep into the creation process of the medium. It seems to be a trend that's becoming more and more common, but won't ultimately blow up as much as the isekai or cute girls doing cute things genre had done before. Much like Bakuman and Shirobako had done it before, Izoken's the newest entry to that line of anime talking about how anime gets made. However, unlike the mentioned shows, I see Izoken as a more relaxed and less technical counterpart. I'd admit that this show feels a lot less serious than those mentioned, with it taking pride in its frantic and wacky energy. There's not really much to the plot besides 3 girls starting an animation club. Without a strong or compelling plot to drive the show forward, Izoken looks to keep us entertained with its main characters, and boy, does it do a great job of that. Every now and then the girls drift into a surreal fantasy sequence, a nifty twist that really shows us how much the creators love making their ideas run wild, both in and out of universe. Overall, Izoken's random and fun, and I think it can be one of the more memorable hits this winter season. Claiming the top spot on the list is Id Invaded. Id Invaded is an anime original that revolves around the Mizuhaname, a mysterious system that allows people to dive into the minds of murderers. The catch is that only people who've killed someone are permitted to dive into the Id Wells, manifestations of a murderer's mind. Id Invaded tells the story of Sakaido, a former detective who's had his fair share of experience with murder. While he may be considered a renegade assisting the police force, Sakaido soon realizes that the whole system and the serial killers that he despises so much may hold secrets far beyond what he's figured out. Id Invaded certainly brings back some memories of Psycho Pass and Inception for me, an apt name for a series then, seeing as id is the general term for an individual's unconscious mind. The use of technology in order to explore the mind of a criminal is a concept that's now been around for quite some time, and it amazes me to find another show like that this season. Will we look back at this season and consider Id Invaded as one of the best hits of 2020? Only time will tell.